Welcome to Revive Ministries Podcast. This month we're talking about building a home. You know, there is sometimes an inherent difference between when we say house versus a home. And sometimes I do not like to ignore the fact that the holidays can be one of the hardest times for people, reminding of them of maybe people that are not there anymore. Today we have a new guest. Her name is Angela Carter. Is that correct? Oh, sorry. Angela Carter. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing your insight with us and just joining us in the conversation.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. I always have a disclaimer for those around the world, but for the U.S., if you are in crisis, the 988 number is for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. But wherever you are, resources are different. You know, me working in the mental health field, I don't like reinventing the wheel. A lot of times, what worked, what was positive, find what works for you, especially when it comes to healing. I always say people say better than me, Angela, and that's usually true. I stutter with my words, but at the same time, it's humbling. As George Moore says, a man travels the world over in search of what he needs and returns home to find it. What comes to mind when you hear this quote? It's very there's a lot of wisdom to it, but what comes to mind when you hear it yourself?
Home. When you hear that word home, there's something about the word home where you get a sense of security, a sense of belonging. And I think about a old hymn that I heard.
Mm-hmm.
Amid pleasures and palaces, though we may roam, be it ever so humble, there's
Mm-hmm.
no place like home.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel home is sometimes less tangible than the structure itself. A lot of times it's how we connect. It's you could be in a big mansion and feel empty, feel like it's just a lot of space, but it's not a home. The people you surround yourself, and also, um, to piggyback that, James Baldwin said it this way: perhaps home is not a place, but simply an irrevocable condition. And this is the more less tangible, but being faith-based, I can understand myself. The idea of home is not just a place. If I think about Jacob and Esau. But before getting there, what comes to mind when you hear this quote?
Home is a place of tranquility.
Mm,
It's the place where our early childhood is birthed, the first things that we learn.
mm,
Home, we assimilate it with the things that we learn, our first step, our
mm,
first words, the friends that we make, our early childhood. We associate the smells, the sounds. There's
mm.
certain things that wherever we go in the world, whenever we hear certain things, it always reflect back home.
Yeah.
And
No, go
it,
ahead. Sorry.
there was the show The Golden Girls,
Mm,
and in that show Rose always in every episode referred back, oh, and St. Ola, everything was about St. Ola because
yeah.
St. Ola was her home,
Yeah.
and she could connect that with everything that she did.
Mm-hmm. And I totally agree. There's this connecting factor when it comes to home. Unfortunately, those who are really struggling, they try to, they'll go on a vacation per se. Everyone's on vacation somehow. I don't know how they are, but the thing is, you could not feel, you could go somewhere else, but still feel miserable. There's something about how you are internally and how you feel that matters. You change the scenery, it's not home. You change where you go, it's not home. And I think in regards to what you were saying, the baseline when we're starting our first steps, a lot of us are shaped by our culture, where we were brought up, what we learned as a child, both positive and unfortunately some negative, but we grow and I think home and defining home and the house is very I don't know. It's something very deep and inspiring for me. Um,
There is
anything
a
else? Go
difference.
ahead. Go ahead.
There is a difference between a home and a house,
Mm-hmm.
because you can have a beautiful, elaborate house with all of the fittings. It could be beautiful, but if there's no love, there's no connection, there's no feeling in
Mm-hmm.
that. That's a house. But when you talk about home, it's more um sanctity. There's more connection. You
Yeah.
feel that sense of belonging and welcoming.
Yeah, I totally agree. I know I was mentioning a little bit. Obviously, Revive Ministry doesn't proselytize, but I do inspire. I cannot deny that faith has really, really helped me along my journey of healing and self-reflection. And Jacob's story, just him fleeing from Esau. The reason I mentioned this is just in the story, he flees. He goes to Bethel, was house of God. But the interesting thing about it is there was no structure, but it was his home at that current moment. He was running away. He had that dream, but not to get deeper into it. But more, the fact is, um, your home doesn't need sometimes structure. Is my point. Sometimes home is just the connection you have. With Jacob, it was the connection he had with God, but home doesn't need to be this huge, like you said, ravishing, like lavish place. It could be just a small place where you feel connected and loved. And I feel sometimes we may lose sight of those simple facts in our lives. What are your thoughts on this? And as we move forward, I was gonna later on. I want to also ask a little bit about if you want to share a little bit about your story, but in regards to Genesis, when it comes to Jacob's story, and anything you want to add to what I've said, or anything else you want to share.
I would like to emphasize that in order for Jacob to find that peace, he had fled from home.
Mm-hmm.
And when he fled at that time, he was a young man, and
Mm-hmm.
now he's going back, he's more mature.
Mm-hmm.
But in order for him to find that peace and tranquility
Mm-hmm.
and to get things right, he had to go back home,
Yeah.
even to reconnect with the covenant that
Yeah.
was made with his grandfather. I
Mm-hmm.
will bless a blessing to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So it was a reconnecting, and I believe that going back home was the only place where he could find that peace.
Yeah. And it's interesting at the end. Obviously, I didn't mention it here, but he does meet his brother, and it's just something he did not expect. The response he had, and it's a beautiful story because I can imagine that place, Bethel, because that's where he first stopped. I can imagine his grandkids being like, well, "It's just a rock. What's the big deal?" And so much more to him at that moment. So anyway, obviously, I just want to ask you, Angela, being a new guest, I'd like to give an opportunity for you to share a little bit about yourself. What brought you to where you are today, and anything you want to share. It's your time.
I am a pastor,
Mm-hmm.
advocate. I am a survivor of domestic violence,
Mm-hmm.
and I just wrote my first book, Letters to My Mama,
Mm-hmm.
All the Things I Never Said. And that's available on Amazon.
I'll,
I
I just want to share real quickly. All the links to her book will be in the notes. So if you want to go check it out, I encourage you to do so. Continue. Sorry about that.
thank you. I, in my situation, I was in a very chaotic home. I
Mm.
was um in a situation where abuse was constantly had. So it put me in a position of having to redefine my home. I knew that I was in an unhealthy environment.
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, I had to identify the situation.
Hmm.
and come up with a plan to change that chaos into a healthy environment.
That's, I want to ask you, from that experience, what components helped you start building on a healthy home, and what helped and what did not help? Just for those listening, I always find it very helpful for people to hear different aspects and perspectives. So please share what you can, um, on what helped you build a healthy home.
Uh, First of all, I had to relocate. I had to
Mm.
separate myself from the chaos,
Mm-hmm.
which was a difficult situation because when you're starting over in life, it's not always easy. So
Mm-hmm.
there are many aspects that I had to come up with a short-term plan,
Mm-hmm.
uh, short-term goals, long-term goals, and I had to redefine my normal,
Mm-hmm.
and that I had to start all over again to rebuild a healthy home.
Mm-hmm.
And rebuilding that home, I had to make some sacrifices. I had
Mm-hmm.
to maintain my focus of what was important at this phase in my life and what was not important. And I also had to prioritize because I had at that time three young daughters.
Mm-hmm.
So it was not only myself, but it was also maintaining a safe environment for them where they could thrive and not be psychologically impacted by all the chaos that was going on in the home.
Yeah, and it's I can't imagine what that all must have been, because it's I remember one person saying it, letting go is hard, but starting over is harder.
Yeah.
Starting over is like you can let go of things, but you may be in the same bitterness, same mindset. But to say I'm gonna put myself out there to try to be better, it's inspiring. I just commend you on that, Angela. I want to hear a little bit about, what did not help. What did not help during that time? Because a lot of times we have to give ourselves grace because it's not easy to start over, to try to build something that maybe something new that you haven't experienced before. So anything you want to share insight on this?
What did not help is the fact that I had to give up everything that I had worked for.
Mm,
And when you are going through, when you have work, but you have to leave it all behind because you're running to maintain that safety. You're running to for your life, to put it in a different light. When you have to give up everything, those are some of the things that you think about, and they're not very helpful in your state of mind. You cannot focus on those things. Not
mm,
having the finance that you need, um
mm,
having to be in that situation where there once in your life where you had everything, but now you find yourself with nothing at all. So
mm-hmm,
those are the things that didn't help in that situation. But
yeah,
having the faith in God and believing in Him
mm-hmm.
help you through those situations.
I want to also share that, thinking of the idea of building homes, there's many different types of homes, some more tangible than others. Um, First, you may have your immediate family, extended family, then you have your community or faith based family, and maybe a space we have within ourselves that's less tangible. Maybe in the faith based side, our relationship with God. You know, I want to ask you, which of these homes, not to pick one as a favorite, what comes to mind? What pops in your head has been a strong role for you today, and what have you learned from it along this journey?
Well, the all of the components that you put,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
family, the church, they all play a very important role.
Mm-hmm.
But I think my strongest role, my would be my immediate family.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up in a home
Mm-hmm.
where I was surrounded by love. I was surrounded by family who nurtured me and took care of me and taught me some values and taught me the principles. And
Mm-hmm.
I would say that would be the strongest entity in my life was my immediate family.
I totally agree. A lot of the things I've learned, I can at least speak for myself. I learned when I was a child. I learned like a lot of the foundations, and I want to also piggyback. One thing I've learned was that you can't just maintain a home; you must also build it. It's it's kind of weird to say it that way, but we kind of, at least for me, I can find myself get a little bit complacent because the fear I have, and I'm not just saying in churches or me being, I'm working with churches, but also in their own home. But just using this example, whether you're faith based or not, the fear of just keeping things as they are can erode the most pristine homes. If your only focus is I just need to make it like it was, sometimes you may miss out on an opportunity to grow your home or even see something, dive a little deeper. Any thoughts on that? At least this is what I've experienced. I know everyone are in different parts of their journey when it comes to building or providing a healthy, positive home or environment. What are your thoughts?
Well, you can compare it to a garden.
Mm-hmm.
You have a garden and you sow seeds
Mm-hmm.
and they grow up.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to take the time to pull the weeds, you have to till around it, you have to
Mm-hmm.
water it, you have to
Yeah.
make sure that it is coming up right. So with a home, there are certain values that you must maintain.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the love, communication,
Mm-hmm.
getting along with each other, family outings, having fun, time
Mm-hmm.
of laughter, time of coming together.
Mm-hmm.
And those are some of the components having faith, stability,
Mm-hmm.
uh, devotions, you
Mm-hmm.
know, having a family time together, communicating with each other. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we get so caught up with our daily occupations that we forget to say, "Well, how was your day?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
how how did you have a hard day? How
Yeah.
was your day?" Those are things that maintain that home.
I agree. We're too quick. I think before was, we're just too quick. How are you? And you just walk off, and then you're just expecting, I'm doing okay. Now everyone's just super busy. I'm busy to even just, everyone's super busy in their lives. And whenever you try to have a conversation, it's the busyness kind of supersedes just being present. Like, how are you, Angela? How was your day? Saying in that moment, if that makes
And
sense.
sometimes we bring the busyness even from our work into the home.
Oh, I know. I know.
So we're so busy and now since we've been working from at home, everybody is on their computer. Have to
Yeah.
finish this report. Have to make sure. So
Yeah.
the that time of uniting and that you know time of communication that is cut short to a point.
Yeah, and I feel the boundaries are less clear. We have porous boundaries in dividing those spaces. But also, one thing I've noticed, I was talking to my wife, is that I can have 10 minutes, but I'm really present with my wife for 10 minutes. It's better than 3 hours just doing, just being in the same proximity. There's something about the quality of being intentional. I noticed this before COVID. You go to a restaurant, they have family gathering, a family reunion. Everyone's on their phone. Angela, everyone's on their phone.
There's no communication.
It's like, it's funny because they probably made this big arrangement. Oh, we're gonna go to this restaurant. Everyone's gonna meet. It's been so
Yeah,
long,
yes.
and unfortunately, the intentionality of communication I don't know. I feel that it's not just time because time's interesting. I don't know. When I was in class, if a class I didn't like, Angela, it seemed like it lasted forever.
Yeah,
But something I liked
it was
lasted very. So I think there's something there. Sometimes it's not that we don't have enough time because it can't add more than 24 hours a day. It's
right.
it's just really spacing and being okay with it. I still struggle about not bringing my work home. But one thing I tell my wife is what I've been practicing is when I come home, I'm excited to come home. I'm happy to drive home. And that's a good sign for me, even though I'm trying to leave work because I work in the mental health field and home at the work, I'm not bringing home. It's still something I have to actively engage in. Like, I'm going to be present home. And for me, this is something learned. And I feel this is something I'm trying to get better at. But um, I don't know. How about how anything you want to add to that, Angela?
Yes, I would like to elaborate on that a little
Okay.
because you said you're in the health profession, and I can imagine what your um, caseload is like and all of the situations you have to deal with. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I can just see you relaxing, trying to get home so
Yeah.
that you can just uh, relax, take your shoes off, sit on the couch, and just breathe in and
Yes.
so.
It's funny. A lot of times I've been through trauma therapy and all this
Yes,
stuff, and sometimes the simplest thing is I drink a lot more tea. I don't, and just even making my tea, I take my time, Angela. I
yes,
take each step. I just
yes,
focus on that, and just the whole process. And believe it or not, especially you could, like you said, I have my caseload might be overwhelming. All I need, I'll tell myself, I need 5 minutes. 5 minutes, and
yes.
so it's amazing. We practice it enough, at least from my experience. I feel okay. I feel okay because I've learned certain, and it doesn't always work that way. But at the same time, if I recognize it sooner than later, I'm able to catch it quicker and know, hey, I need a little bit of time to kind of breathe and work on myself, and then I'll come back. And that's okay, at least from what I found. And also, it has helped me notice if I'm bringing things home from work, because sometimes we don't recognize it when everything's work. so, so
And sometimes too, when we think of the chaos that we just came out of,
mm,
we begin to have a deeper appreciation
mm-hmm.
of our home. We just embellish those moments and thank God, and be grateful that things are as well as they are in our homes.
Yeah, and I feel, that is just the way you may be able to reframe, because a lot of we're very either very critical on ourselves, or there's always someone else or
Yeah.
something else going on. But the fact that you're here, fact that you're listening, the fact that there's a lot of things to be grateful for. Sometimes we forget about. I do want to say that what we've learned in the past, so it's good to remember, but not to dwell. Remember the lessons you learned. And I don't know. I've been doing practices as 24-hour rule. If I do something well, I appreciate myself for 24 hours. Then I move on. A lot of times I don't get
Move
stuck there.
on. We're not going to dwell on the negativity. We're going to
Yeah, Angela. Just I'm gonna ask you as we kind of wrap things up. What does building a home? We've been talking about it, and I just want to give you an opportunity to share anything we haven't spoken of. But I really appreciate your insight and just sharing your perspective. I'm gonna also ask you any final thoughts you have and anything else you want to share with those listening today.
building a home means an environment that is, first of all, clean
Mm-hmm.
and free of chaos,
Mm-hmm.
a home where there is a welcoming spirit, there's discipline,
Mm-hmm.
there is thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
and there's appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those, the fruits of the Spirit, things that enlighten us, things that we can work together
Mm-hmm.
as a family. We can know each other's strengths and our weaknesses, and know that you can come to each other. We can communicate about the
Mm-hmm.
things that is difficult for us, and be able to maintain that healthy environment, that peaceful environment, free from the cares of the world. You can always build that relaxing atmosphere.
I totally agree, and at the same time, a lot of times when you create and you have these kind of environments, accountability is not a bad word when it's a safe place. So if I want to I don't know, lose weight, and I want to okay, I want to, let's say I want to jog. Yeah, I could talk about jogging all the time. And at the end of the day, I gotta start jogging. If I want to jog,
Yeah,
so so there's a lot. Accountability is only a bad thing if you don't feel like you have trust or respect or this kind of environment at home. But that's wonderful. The thing about home is these less tangible things provide you the avenue to discover yourself. There's this healthy tension that's okay. It's not everything's not gonna be roses. Sometimes it's gonna be like but at the same time, it's those growing pains, it's growing things that you learn and self discover for yourself. But in a home, it's more, how would I say, it's more nurturing. It provides an avenue, a place for you to grow in. It's not always going to be
perfect.
easy, but it's a safe place to do it, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Any final thoughts you want to share with those listening? Anything you want to share?
We get better and not bitter.
I
When,
I totally I totally agree. And with uh with all the links for her book, it will be in the notes. And please, I do encourage you to check it out. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank
Angela.
you so much for having me.
No problem. I just want to share with those listening. Remember to stay updated with Revive Ministries through various platforms. ReviveMinistriesFL.com is our website. You can reach other platforms that's this way. This is goodbye from Revive Ministries. I leave it with an Irish proverb. It says, "The longest road out is the shortest road home." And I find that very comforting. But till next time.